Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Camera Work Podcast number 17. This is John Ricard. I'm a New York portrait photographer, and I am joined by the co-host of Camera Work, Ray Tamarra.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening. It's Ray Tamarra, a working photographer in New York, and especially thanks to all the people that stop John or myself and say they like what we're doing. Definitely continue to listen and tell your friends, because we want you to join the conversation. Send us any type of feedback so that you can be included in there too. So thank you.
Yeah, I love the idea of feedback, because it's like back in the old days, if you read a book like the Stephen King book, you couldn't write to Stephen King and have him write you back. But today, with a lot of people, and especially something like this podcast, which is pretty small, if you like it and you like send a Twitter with a question or Twitter something you like, we're going to write back to you. And I think that's kind of cool, that interaction. So yeah, I definitely encourage people to do that. All right.
Yeah, no, I mean, people like the shout outs, people like Yusef, and then all the other people in our jiu-jitsu class who are like photography and listen, and especially the other guy, the buyer for
yeah, Stephen Gomez, who's a guest on it. Right.
And just everyone who likes and listens to it and likes to be shouted out, recognized. It's like, this is our cheers. So we're trying to acknowledge all the people, especially that big, Tyra Banks guy. We shouted him out at the end of the podcast. But
yeah, we should have done at the beginning, because that's Matthew Jordan Smith, and he's a photographer that I envy for several reasons. For one thing, his lighting is impeccable. He does a lot of beauty photography, and he does campaigns. I don't remember which company. I'm going to say it's Clairol, but I could be wrong. But one of those is like almost always him. Well, a lot of it is his. And the lighting is just perfect. And I envy his ability to light things so well. And in addition to that, he has the type of shooting that I would love to do, in a sense that he's not a guy shooting, he's never having to shoot a party, he doesn't have to do events, he doesn't retouch his own work. I've been to his seminars before, so he has the type of career that I like, where you're shooting celebrities, you're doing beauty photography, which is not, like some guys want to be like on a mountain and, staying 3 days in Alaska on a mountaintop shooting. I have no desire to do that. There's guys who are dying to be on the NFL Super Bowl and shoot that. I don't want to do that. There's guys shooting surf photography. Not interested in it. And even something like concerts, which is a lot of fun. And I've shot a lot of concerts over the years, but it's not my dream isn't concerts, but just doing beauty photography with beautiful celebrity women. I mean, come on, can you beat that? And he shoots a ton of that in a ton of good fashion. So I respect a lot of that. And as I mentioned on the previous podcast, like he did a seminar one time in Unique Photo in Jersey, which is a fantastic camera shop. I never shop there because they're in Jersey, and I don't like going to Jersey, but it is a really cool shop. But, he did one there, and like I got in a car and drove from Brooklyn to Jersey, which is not a big deal to a lot of people, but I don't like going to Jersey. I don't like driving. I always get lost. But I did that for him because I like the way he teaches, and I like what he teaches, and I like his attitude. He can be a little like corny almost, but he believes that, he's like team, together everyone achieves more. And I'm like, did he really just say, did he really just spell out team? Because my thing for team is there is no team. You can't spell team without M-E, without me. So I'm the most important person on the team. That's my philosophy of team. Okay. So a little different than the Matthew Jordan Smith thing, but yeah, he's a super cool guy. And, I've spoken to him for, like 20 minutes at a time, and cool dude. So yeah, the fact that he tweeted like, hey, I like the podcast. I think it was number 8 with Medina, my assistant. And just super cool guy.
Yeah. So definitely everyone listen, tell your friends, and definitely send us feedback so that you can be involved, because, you're part of the podcast too. Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's just me talking to Ray, right? Well, anyway, so I want to talk about something. So last week I went to buy a suit, which is something I do periodically, because there's certain gigs you get where you have to dress a certain way. And it just reminded me of something that happened when I was in Miami about a year ago. Okay. And I have to change some details of this story, so it's not recognizable, so pardon me for that, but the point of the story will still come through. So anyway, I'm at this dinner out of state, not in New York, we're in Miami, and it's a meeting of a certain group of professionals, okay, and it's big. It's like, say, 300 people there, and everybody there is making a ton of money, and everybody there is wearing a suit, okay. Now, this group does a dinner once a year, their big once-a-year event. And they sell tables. That means a company will come in, Xerox, whatever, Staples, and they buy a table and they put their executives at the dinner table and they can talk and network and watch the festivities that happen during the dinner. And they have like, it could be as many as 80 tables. We're talking about a big organization, and the best tables cost $50,000 for the table. That's what you pay to get your people at that table. And the cheapest table, I think, is like $15K. All right. So anyway, I'm working for this group, and I'm one of the photographers, and I'm shooting the things happening at this smaller meeting that they're having. And there's another photographer there as well. Because when you're dealing with big companies, there's a lot of different departments. You know, if you're shooting for Pepsi, you could be shooting the marketing for Pepsi, and some other dude is shooting publicity for Pepsi, and one may not even know the other guy is there. You know, it's big companies, they'll hire different photographers because we're shooting for different purposes. So me and this other dude, we're kind of on the same team, but I don't know him, he doesn't know me. We're not really working together. And, okay, I'm in a suit. Everybody there's in a suit. And, of course, I'm looking at the other photographer because that's how I am. And I know a lot of people probably don't care. Like, you probably don't really do that, right? You probably have that, like, tunnel vision. You go and do your job and that's it. Mm-hmm. But I'm looking, what's this guy? You know, like, what's this guy carrying camera-wise? Who is the guy? I don't know why. I think I started doing it before I was a photographer, so it just kind of stuck with me. Mm-hmm. But anyway, the dude's wearing, like, light blue pants and a white shirt. Like, the pants don't really fit. The shirt's not really tucked in right. He's got a bow tie, no suit coat. And it's like every single person in this room is wearing a dark business suit. Mm-hmm. Everybody, including me. And you show up without the suit. And I just don't understand it. Like, I'm just like, what's going on in your head as a photographer that you're telling yourself, like, well, it doesn't matter what I'm wearing because all that matters is my photographs. What is the mentality? What am I missing that possesses someone to show up at an event like this? What am I not understanding?
Well, I mean, it depends. I can see it from both sides. I know that, I mean, you see me, I'm in a black shirt and a black pants, and I usually do that so that I can work during the day, and if I get the last minute call to do a gig, a corporate gig at night, then the attire can pass for something. Like
but you're still trying to dress appropriately for the corporate gig.
Yeah, but there's men and women who are bigger than the gig.
Yeah, but first, we know guys like that. You know, we both know, say, Johnny Nunez. Like, and this is a guy, he's a hip-hop photographer, and, you know, sometimes people be like, I am hip-hop. Like, I'm not hip-hop, I'm sorry. I shoot a ton of hip-hop, but I'm not hip-hop. A guy like Johnny Nunez, he is hip-hop. So if I go to an event and I'm wearing, like, say, jeans and a white t-shirt, let's say it's just an album release party, Meek Mill album release party, I might look like I'm dressed inappropriately because I can't really pull off just a white t-shirt. I'm going to look like I'm wearing a t-shirt and I'm not dressed. Johnny Nunez could show up in that same exact white t-shirt and it just works for him. It just does. He's hip-hop and it looks like I'm cool, I'm wearing a white t-shirt. He can pull it off. There are people like that. At this particular event, that's not the case. This is a case of a dude who is not dressed appropriately. And everybody in the room is wearing a suit and you're not. And I'm wondering, like, well, what's going through your mind? Are you going, oh, damn, like I fucked this up. I should have worn a suit. Or are you just thinking like, well, only my pictures matter? And I would communicate to a photographer, you should understand our entire business is built on the premise that how things look is important. You understand? You could try to teach a different message. Like maybe I want to communicate to my daughter, hey, how you look isn't important and don't be superficial and don't just worry about your, you know, how you look. Think about your brain and don't just like Selena Gomez because she's cute or whatever. But when you're doing your photography, the whole business is predicated on the idea that like, if you're an executive and I'm going to photograph you, I need to photograph you good because it's going to make a difference in your career. We can't have a shitty photo of you. Just how things look is important. That's why we retouch. That's why we light things. That's why we want to be hired and not just have your grandmother take pictures at the Sweet 16 or whatever. So when you show up without dressing right, it's like you're violating your own premise because you're pretending how things look don't matter. Well, then why do I want you to take a good photograph? Because you're communicating to me how things look do not matter. So I'm just baffled by it. And I know for me, like, I never liked wearing a suit growing up. I never liked it. And I tried to think about why as I was thinking about this particular podcast. And I think there's a couple of reasons in particular why. Like, for one thing, the suits I had when I was young, and I'm talking like, say, like 15, like they never fit, right? Mm-hmm. Like your suit was always just handed down. It was always like Uncle Bob, you know, your mom just gave you that suit. or your mother just came home one day and like, we got you a suit, or worse, you got the suit when you were 15 and you wore it till you were 17, so it didn't fit. So you didn't have the right suit, and it was never comfortable. And then where you were going in the suit, it was never where you wanted to be. You were going to some church for like a wedding or a funeral. You didn't care about the wedding. You probably cared about the funeral, but it's not a fun thing. Or you're going to that aunt's house where you had to get dressed up, and it was never a fun event. Whereas say today, if I wear a suit, it means I'm getting a check. Like I don't choose to wear a suit really for anything. So if I'm wearing a suit, it's a corporate gig and I'm collecting a check. And a lot of times I'll put a picture on like Twitter or like me wearing a suit. And I always want to go like, yeah, I'm getting paid, hashtag, but everybody does that and it looks really stupid, so I wouldn't do it. But mentally, I'm always thinking like I'm in a suit, so, I'm making money today, which is a good thing. And the other thing I learned was, as I got older, was to go buy a suit that fits. Go get the thing fitted. You go to a guy and he comes and he measures your waist, right? You've done this.
Yeah, no, I got a suit. I had it tailored, and the tailoring cost more than the suit. So
right.
I got paid $250 for the tailoring to have it fit. And,
right.
And, suits are expensive. I've been to red carpets where I've seen rappers wear suits, and they were god awful. Like some of the athletes, when they wear suits, it's just like if you want to wear a suit, you have to get it fitted.
Right. You got to get the right thing. And then the other thing for me is like finding a designer that you click with in terms of dressing better. So for me, I found out without really realizing it that I like every single thing from Kenneth Cole. I mean, God, I like the sneakers. I like the jeans. I wear the jeans every day. I like the white t-shirt that just says Kenneth Cole on it. I like the shirts. I like the suit. I even like the wallet. And I would be buying the Kenneth Cole stuff without realizing it was all the same thing. And then one day I was like, am I really wearing like a Kenneth Cole jeans or a Kenneth Cole shirt, a Kenneth Cole wallet, a Kenneth Cole belt? I was like, wow, I like every single thing they make in this place. And Mark Echo is another one. I like a lot of their stuff. But I think for people who are struggling with this, one of the things you want to do is try to find that designer that you connect with. And like I listen to Howard Stern like every day, and he always talks about John Varvatos, I think you pronounce it. And like that's his guy. And it's like, I think he gets John Varvatos himself though to come and dress him though. We can't do that. But I think everything John Varvatos makes, Howard Stern likes, that's the designer that he connects to. So you got to find that designer that you connect to is one thing. And the other thing is like get the clothes fitted and stop lying to yourself that you can get away with just wearing anything. If we're in a room with corporate executives who are paying $50,000 for a table and they're dressed a certain way, you should be dressed that same way too. And you should stop thinking that's just about your photography. It's not just about your photography.
I mean, there's you certainly, that's your opinion, but then there's guys, because I've done jobs in Miami where I went in a suit, and the Miami guy, who's a big guy, and he shoots all the big people, he came in shorts and shorts and just a regular casual top.
Right. Again,
and the people, the client was looking at him like cockeyed, but he didn't care, and he got the job. And if that client didn't hire him again, he's not worried about it because he's got more jobs.
Okay, well, hey, if you're willing to lose the gig,
at the end of the day, your opinion is absolutely valid for yourself. And if you're worrying about another person, then that's too much brain power.
Yeah,
if you're worrying about another person's suit, then you're wasting your time. All you have to do is just worry about your suit, making sure that you're comfortable.
Yeah, I should do that, but it'd be a really boring podcast if I did that. Yeah, but we're not even done with this guy. So now, in addition to this, the guy's got a camera bag on. Now, I go crazy with this because I'm constantly on these like anti-camera bag rants. Like you could literally go on YouTube and you could YouTube search John Ricard rants against camera bags. And I think there's only one still online because I've taken a lot of videos down over the years. But at one point, I think I had 3 where I'm trying to show different methods that you don't need a camera bag. Like for one thing you can do is you could put your gear together. You could put like your lens on and your flash on the camera if you're using a small bracket. You put the camera in a plastic bag or these little like drawstring bags. I don't know how to describe it, but I use these drawstring bags. Sometimes they're super thin. And you put the camera in there. You get to the destination. You take the camera out. And you just fold up the bag. It fits right in your pocket. If it's a shopping bag, you throw it away and you get another one when you leave the gig. And then when you're shooting the gig, you've got the gear on and you're not carrying a camera bag. And for me, like if I'm trying to work, I can't, effectively bob and weave through a crowded room with a camera bag. You understand? And I use these little Domkey pouches, they're called. Like if you search B&H, it's a Domkey pouch. I think it might be like a 901 or a 501, something like that. But it's a Domkey pouch. You put them on your belt. And then I use a think tank belt to put the pouches on. I don't like to put them on my regular belt. It drags my pants down. But, you put a flash in there or another lens or whatever else you're going to do. And then you don't have to worry about a camera bag. But I'm constantly seeing guys, and like you say, I believe me, you're 100% correct. I should have like this tunnel vision, go do my job, mind my business. But, I don't know. My eyes are wandering all over the place. And I see guys shoot like parades and street festivals. They've got this giant bag on and they're trying to bob and weave through the crowd. And I don't get it. But in this particular case, like you think about this, okay, you're at this dinner. And again, I think this particular one wasn't the $50,000 table at dinner, but it's the same people who are sitting at $50,000 tables. What do you think? They're going to steal your camera bag? Like, why are you wearing a camera bag? People are eating dinner and you're walking through tables and there's like this camera bag just kind of traveling with you. Like, I'm having dinner. I don't want to see you with your camera bag anywhere near my plate, anywhere near me. And what's in the bag?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't understand. What's in the camera bag?
To tell you the truth, I just dismiss that because it's not a. I think that you're putting too much weight on it, and if you want to do that, then that's fine with you. Like me personally, I carry my camera bag, and there's gear in there. And then I remember there was an incident where I put my camera bag down, and then the whole shot moved because everything is so fluid. And when I looked back, the camera bag was gone, and I panicked. I was ready to physically destroy someone to get my camera bag because in that camera bag is over 30 grand of stuff. So that's it's a tremendous loss for me.
But no.
And what I realized is that a fellow photographer, because he saw that the shot was moving away from where our equipment was, he picked up the camera bag, and I was so grateful.
Right, he was trying to help. Right,
he was so. But I carry a camera bag. At that particular function, I probably wouldn't carry a camera bag during the dinner reception because I knew that I would have the equipment on me and then I could go back to it.
It's like, again, this is why I keep going back to the point, well, what's in the bag? Because to me, if you're shooting the dinner, you should be backed up with gear. So if you've got a second camera body, that camera body should be on. That should not be in the bag. You basically know what you need in terms of a lens. I mean, really, 24 to 70 and a 70 to 200 millimeter lens will cover 99% of anything anybody shoots on this planet. That's all you need, those two lenses. Ideally, you've got a backup lens in case one of those lenses breaks. You've got, like in my case, I have a cheap 24 to 85 that I'll bring in my bag on certain gigs just as an emergency backup. But like if that lens gets stolen, I don't really care. So the point is, if you put the gear on, the camera bag should be empty at that point. You understand? Because you're not bringing extra gear. You're not bringing like a 300 millimeter lens to the dinner. You've left that back at the hotel or back at your house. So I'm thinking the camera bag is essentially empty. So if it's empty, what are you worried? Someone's going to steal the camera bag itself? You should not have the camera bag on. And like you say, this is all my opinion, and I tend to speak in a way of like, it's a fact, whatever. But I'm just saying, when I look at it, it just drives me crazy, But, the funny thing is I spoke to the guy, like we talked, and we worked beautifully together, which is super cool because we were doing that thing where like we were both trying to get a lot of the same shots. And it's like I would shoot it and I'd defer to him, like, okay, let him get the shot. And then he would do the shot and he'd point like, okay, let John get the shot. So, I mean, super cool guy. Like we spoke for like, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 minutes that night, and cool dude. But it's just, I don't know. I just think sometimes like you've got stuff off a little bit and maybe you don't see it, but I'm here to let you know, go buy a good suit and ditch the camera bag and look, because again, you look more like the people you're shooting, and that's what you want. You want to look like the guy who's sitting at the $50,000 table. You don't want to look like the hired help. You want to look like you belong there so you can talk to these people as equals and try to get another job off this guy who's at a table that costs $50K. You don't want to look like the guy who's like the mechanic who's like, you understand, who's coming to fix the plumbing because it doesn't work. You want to look like an equal. So,
no, but I mean, you may want to look like the equal, but if you know you're the equal, then you don't care. Like if I know that if I had $50 billion and I look like a bum and I came and you dismissed me, then it doesn't really, what you have to do
again, is, I get it, but that's not this dude, and that's not the people listening to this. Again, there's always that one exception. Yeah, there's the millionaire, but I'm talking about some dude that got a gig and he's like, I'm glad to get this gig. It's like, go buy a suit, go look like you fit in. do your networking, and you'll be better off. And when you reach that point, like you're saying, when you get to be whoever, I'm trying to think of one of the famous people who does that, like who doesn't wear a suit.
I mean, Russell Simmons doesn't wear a suit.
Yeah, like a Russell Simmons, where like you could just make you completely your own rules. Like Puffy could go, Puff Daddy, whatever you want to call him, Diddy could wear, but he could wear whatever he wanted anywhere, and nobody would stop him. He doesn't have to. He likes to wear suits, but he could wear anything, and no one's going to stop him. Those guys exist, but
even Jobs and all the Silicon Valley, like tech billionaires, they're real casual.
But if that's the standard, then you should do it. And one more thing about clothing, like I have this shirt, like I'm wearing it today. I wore it on purpose for this podcast, and like there's a girl on it, and she's like half naked. There's all this stuff like written on her body. It's a Mark Echo shirt. At least I got it at the store. I don't even know what it says. I never paid any attention, but like you can see her boobs and all this stuff. And it's like, it's a shirt that, like, I don't wear this shirt to say BET when I'm working in that office. You understand? Like in my studio, if I'm shooting models, I wear it. This is my world. This is my studio. I invited you here. I'm going to wear whatever I want to wear. But I'm just saying, like, I'm conscious of how things look. I'm conscious of it, and we do the podcast on video. I don't know if people realize that, because more people actually listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher than watch it on YouTube. So wherever you're listening, you should be aware there's actually 3 places to get the podcast: YouTube, Stitcher, and iTunes. But if you're watching this on like the YouTube feed, I'm going to show you the shirt of what I'm talking about. Okay, so keep talking. Right? Say something.
I mean, I wrestle with that all the time. I try to dress appropriately. I try to make sure that the stuff that I'm wearing is fits. I even have a gig tomorrow where I'm going to be doing, it's a formal, it's a tuxedo, black tie, and I don't have a black tie outfit. I was thinking about wearing a suit, but the suit is like the suit is perfectly fitted, but it's a metallic blue.
Yeah, it might be like a business suit and not an evening suit.
Yeah, so
you can get into these fine lines if you really understand it.
I probably can pass, or I can just wear this, and then just take it from there.
Right.
I don't know.
But you're like me, where like there are times in the middle of the week you look like a homeless guy, like me. Like we're not into that. But we did a gig together last year. It was called Rip the Runway. It was like this runway fashion show, and then you were backstage shooting like setup shots with 4 lights and a backdrop, and you were shooting every look of the designer. I was running around shooting a lot of like behind the scenes photos. You were dressed better than me. I think you wore a suit, or you had at least a tie on. Like you were dressed better than me for the event. Like, you know how to dress when you need to dress. And
right.
That's the only thing you need to do. You don't have to change your whole lifestyle, but, learn how to dress when you need to, okay? But moving on to another topic, okay? So we touched on this very briefly last time, and I don't know if you saw it, but Leica introduced something called the Vario X. Now, are you familiar with this at all?
No, I mean, I've got a Leica camera. It's the doctor's camera where it doesn't get off the shelf.
Right, it's in mint condition.
Yeah.
Like if you take Ray's card out of his camera, there's pictures on there from like 2012. It's like one card with a year's worth of photos on it, because it's an M9 with the 35mm Summilux, the 1.4 lens. The lens is like $4,000, the body is $7,000.
Yeah. I mean, I bought a Thummy so that I can.
Oh, cool! I love that. It's the best.
I'm gonna rededicate myself to using it, because it shouldn't sit on the shelf, but I should be using it, and I'm gonna be using it.
Cool. The Thummy is a device.
I'll keep you updated. Right.
The weird thing about the Leicas is when you had to film Leicas, you advance the film with your thumb, and what a lot of photographers would do is they would kind of lock their thumb into the film advance lever, and that became a way to grip the camera, because it's a very small camera that's not designed with a grip. And then when Leica went digital, Leica felt like, well, we don't need that little film advance because there's no film in the camera. And then it became a little harder to grip the camera. So a couple of different people came out with solutions to give you another grip of the camera. There's one called the thumbs up, which is very popular, but you lose your hot shoe when you put it on your camera, which is intolerable to me, unacceptable to me. And then there's something called a thummy that you like stick on the camera, gives you a place to rest your thumb, and it makes the grip amazing on the camera. I love the product, and I use it all the time. But what Leica did, though, they announced that they were coming out with something called a Mini M. And people get excited. Anytime Leica puts out anything, everybody's excited. Like, wow, what's that going to be? And what you're hoping for would be the Leica equivalent of an XE1. So what this would be is a camera that doesn't have a rangefinder. That's the delicate part of the camera. It's the expensive part of the camera. And it would not have a rangefinder, but it would take all the Leica M lenses. All I have to do is put this out, and it's a home run for Leica. And it exists already. It's called a Fuji XE1. Fuji's done it. We're just waiting for Leica to do it. And this is what you think they're going to do. So it starts to leak. The information starts to leak. And the leak is that it's a zoom lens camera. It's a point and shoot, basically, with a zoom lens. And it's a super slow lens. I think when you zoom in the camera to 70 millimeters, you're opening up to like 6.4, which is useless. Am I correct in that? It's useless.
Useless without a flash.
Yeah, I mean, who wants a flash? And the weird thing is, in the old days, the Leicas were known as low light cameras because they were making 1.4 lenses, and they were known as the low light camera. And now you want to come up with a zoom lens, 6.4, useless camera. So that leaks. Everybody on the internet, on these little forums, rather, starts going crazy. Oh, what a dumb camera! What a dumb camera! So then Leica puts out an announcement on their site. It says, on June 11th, we're going to announce the real camera. You've heard the rumors. Get ready for the truth. And everybody starts speculating again. Oh my God, what's it going to be? And I'm going to myself, it's going to be the same damn thing of the rumor, because the rumors are always right. They're never wrong. They always get on where these people get the information. They're always right. June 11th comes, bam, it's exactly what the rumor was. It's like a 6.4 zoom lens point and shoot. And it just baffles me. It just blows my mind, like how a company that can make some really cool stuff. They make the M9, which is a great camera. They make something called the M, which I'd like to get, which appears to be a really good camera. They make a black and white camera. I'm considering getting that. But it just amazes me of how a company can get so much stuff wrong. From announcing it as a mini M, which it's not, to designing it with specifications that no real photographer is going to want. And it's like when you do that, you just make people angry with you. And I just don't understand what goes on in like the marketing room that doesn't make someone stop and say, like, this is not the camera we should make. This is not the camera people are waiting for. This is going to make us look out of touch. And while they're doing it, you look at a company like Fuji, and they're just doing everything right. There's a blogger you and I have talked about on the podcast before, Zack, Arias, writes a great blog. I love his blog. He does something called the Photography Q&A, Ask Me Anything About Photography. He just published that blog as a book, and the Q&A blog is free. It's the same content as the book, essentially, and it's great reading. You can spend like an hour there reading all these interesting things, and like he's in love with the X100S, which is a Fuji camera. And then he'll talk about how much he loves the X Pro 1 from Fuji. And then he has a place for the XE1. And it's like Fuji can do no wrong. They made him sell his Nikon and his Canon because he loves the Fuji so much, and a lot of people are following suit. And I don't know if you have any comment on this, but just how does one company like Fuji just keep making every camera right, and everybody loves what they do, and everybody's jumping on board them? And then you get a company like Leica that could hit a home run without even thinking twice, just make it an M without the rangefinder that takes the M lenses, and it's a home run. Why not, or market it properly? Don't make people think you're making a mini M when you're going to make a point and shoot with a slow zoom. How can you get so much stuff wrong?
I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of people. I think that they're out of touch with their users, or there's some people that are advising them that aren't advising them correctly.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only thing I can assume, because I just don't get it, and I think you just build a lot of anger towards your brand when you do that. People they get mad at you because they're like you, wait a minute, you went and made a new camera and you didn't make the camera we wanted? And they make, and again, so Fuji has, and I know we're getting technical here, we're not going to stay on it technical because I don't know if people like that, so we're not going to stay on it that long. Give me just a couple of minutes on this. But there's a camera called a Fuji X100S. People love the camera, universally. People just love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Has a 35 millimeter f2 lens. Leica makes something similar, but it's a 2.8 lens. That's a tremendous difference if you're really into photography. That's a big difference. That's a deal breaker for you. All Leica had to do was make the camera that they currently make with the 2.8 lens, make that same camera with a 2.0 lens. Again, home run. The sales would be flying out of the park. Everyone would love a Leica X3 with a 35 millimeter f2. I would buy it instantly. For $2,000, twice the price of the Fuji, I'd buy it tomorrow. They won't put it out. And again, when you do that, is what you said, you look out of touch. And people lose faith in your brand, and people start insulting you on forums. And instead of having a guy like Zack Arias with an extremely popular blog, his hits are enormous, talking about, oh my God, I love your company, I love your company. You've got everybody going like, oh, they're dead. They're a boutique brand. They're not the brand for professionals anymore, and we don't want them. Did you see the blog post he wrote? He wrote a recent one.
I read that one, and even when we went to that, even when we went to some of these Leica functions, I mean, I got Leica because of you. I could have easily gone to another company, but they did seem like they could do no wrong.
In their mind.
There was a attitude that I got that everything that they were doing was right on.
Right.
We're going to release this camera. We're going to release this camera. And people are waiting for this.
Right.
And
they're
that.
doing something different than everybody else, and nobody's on board with it.
Yeah. So,
but I will say, though, I have to say, though, on my main website, I have 3 galleries. I have my main portfolio, and then I have what I call 2 personal projects. One is called Backstage at BET, and one is called New York, My City. Mm-hmm. And 2 of those 3 galleries are primarily shot with the Leica M9. And I'm telling you, some of the best photography I've shot in my entire career has been with the Leica M9. I consistently produce great work with it. And it's weird because I second guess the camera a lot. And I think what happens for me is it's kind of this information overload because I'm in my cave, and we've talked about this before. I'm in my cave and I love my Leica. And then I'll go read Zack Arias going, no, the Fuji's the new Leica and the Leica's garbage. And, I'm paraphrasing, of course. And then it makes me second guess it. And I go, well, why does everybody else not like this camera? Maybe they're right. Maybe it's the Fuji now. And it does make me second guess it. But the bottom line is I consistently produce great work with my Leica M9, and I love using that camera. And that's why you get frustrated when they do stuff wrong. It's with anything. It's like when people are passionate about a rock group or a franchise like comic books or whatever. You understand? That's why they get so angry. Because they love you and they want you to do right. And every time you make a misstep, it's like you're personally hurt. It's like they personally came and kicked you in the teeth and you're mad at them. And it's like this love-hate thing, But Zack made a point though about why he likes the Fuji. And the point didn't make a lot of sense to me. Like he said essentially what's happening now is everybody has a DSLR. And by that we mean a Nikon or a Canon. They've got good ones like D800s and Canon 5D Mark IIIs. And you've got the cheap Canon Rebels and the Nikon D3200s. So he says he dropped his Nikon and his Canon. That's kind of like sacrilege in the world you and I exist in. You don't do that. You must have a Nikon or a Canon to do your job. He dropped them completely. He has a medium format for the higher end commercial editorial work and the Fuji for all the other work. These are much smaller cameras that almost look like point and shoots or Leicas. They're small cameras. And he said one of the cool benefits of that was when the people you're on set with, the art directors and stuff, they're looking at your camera like, whoa, what is that? Because they all own Nikons and Canons in their personal life because everybody owns these cameras now. And it kind of gives you that little bit of a wow factor. And I know I get that with the Leica constantly. People are like, well, what is that? Is that a film camera? They don't know what the M9 is. But the weird thing to me was that he didn't seem to realize that the X100S is so popular. Like 3 people at Marcelo Garcia's Academy, Jiu-Jitsu, where we train, have the X100S. And like 6 months, everyone's going to have the Fuji. So like if you're buying it with a little bit of that wow factor in mind, the idea that your client is going to go, oh, this dude's different. He's not just another guy with a 5D Mark II. That's not going to last long, especially when a guy like Zack is throwing up these blog posts going, oh my God, the Fuji's great. I know that's influential. There's a ton of people running out buying a Fuji because of his blog post. In 6 months, you're going to be just where you were with the Nikon in the sense of that wow factor that everyone's going to have the camera and they're going to go like, oh yeah, another guy with the X100S.
Yeah, I mean, like, I know you get caught up with that. I don't. I can care less what other people think about the gear that I do. Just as long as I connect with the gear, like I connect with my Nikons because I can do the job with the Nikons. And that's why I changed, and I bought a Nikon D4 because I couldn't do the same type. I was missing stuff on the D3.
Right.
And
well, you were on a D3. I was on D3S.
Mm-hmm.
And although there's just that little designation between the two, it's a really big difference. The D3S focuses substantially better than a D3, and it's much better at low light than a D3. So there is a difference. You kind of sat that out. Then you went to the D4, which is much better than the D3S. So you're right on point. Yeah.
And then that's why I've been having a lot of trouble connecting with the Leica because it's so markedly different. The rangefinder, I still am. It's just a chore for me.
Right. And what I've constantly tried to stress to you is I think for you, and you've talked about this on the podcast a lot, for you look at photography as a vehicle to make money. Conversation over. You're not looking at it enough of an artistic pursuit. And you're like, I am, like if I'm watching TV, it can be hard for me sometimes. I just feel like I should be doing something. I should be sending emails, and it's hard for me to relax. you're kind of like that photographically. You're just like, why am I shooting these pictures if they're not going to make me any money? And not taking enough time to just say, well, I'm just going to be artistic. So I think what happens for you is you try to do your Nikon shots on the Leica, and it just doesn't work because it's not good at that. But when you eventually figure out your Leica shots on the Leica, you're going to produce some amazing stuff. And, I think it's going to be interesting to see it. And I know the other problem that I get with all the cameras is, tell me if you're encountering this, are you finding that you shoot on more sets where video is being run and you need your cameras to be quieter?
Yeah, no, that's a lot of stuff. I do a lot of movie sets, and I have to really be aware that I can't just fire off 20 frames because it makes a lot of noise. I know that on your sets, and I've thought about that, if I had more jobs, I would buy the Blimps. I mean, those are important.
Well, you see, I was thinking a different route, and I actually brought 2 cameras in for this part of the conversation. But when I shoot at BET, there's music is deafeningly loud. I wear earplugs on set every day at BET, so my shutter is not a problem there. But even still, I end up on quite a few jobs where somebody's running video, and there's some guy with headphones holding a boom telling you your shutter's too loud. And the Nikon Pro bodies are extremely loud. I'm going to let you hear it right now. This is my D3S. That's a loud shutter. If somebody's talking, it's going to be hard to hear me. And I have, the Leica, which is a much quieter camera, and I want you to hear the difference with that. And again, I'm talking over it right now, but even the Leica, mind you, I can't shoot anymore because my buffer is filled up, so I did like 7 shots on the Leica, and that's what you deal with the M9. But even the Leica, which is much lower than the D3, is still too loud. Right, it's still too loud, and they have this like discrete mode, which is a little bit better, but it's still pretty loud. But I think that's another advantage that those Fujis have. Like, that's why I've been considering buying an XE1 with a mount that'll let me put my Leica lenses on it, and using that as a quiet camera when I'm on video sets and sets that are running sound.
Yeah, no, I mean, you can do that. That could certainly be an option. Or like I told you before, I thought I was going to be doing more work as a set photographer. I mean, a movie set photographer. So I was thinking about the Blimps, and the Blimps, what a Blimp is basically an encasement where you can muffle the sounds of the shutters. And this is where all the pro photographers who take the movie stills, they use that. That's a mandatory piece of equipment.
Right. The only thing is, like, for me, I've never and there's a photographer, Michael LaCasino. You know him, I'm sure, right? And I shoot 106 and Park at BET Studios, and then right in the same building, like right next door, because it's a CBS building, was, I forget what show. It was like Maury or something, some other show. And he was the house photographer for that. So I'd see him periodically. And on his set, he had to use a blimp because it's not blasting music, it's people talking. And I would say to him, like, man, I would hate to use that blimp because it's not a nice way to hold a camera. Like, they're not ergonomic. No. A lot of them look like they were made in, like, 1940. Mm-hmm. There's nothing modern about them. They look like Jacques Cousteau, like, should be underwater with this thing or something.
Yeah, they're really big. You can't see the back of the screen, so that pretty much limits how you tell exposures. And I mean, it's like a chore to work with. But I've seen newer style blimps that address that, so they're available. But they're also expensive. Like these housings are probably like $1,500, $2,000, and then if you have to get the lens. The lens encasements too. I mean, it can be a $4,000 investment, but if you're doing those jobs and that's the equipment that you need, then you have to suck it up and buy it.
Right. But I would definitely, personally, I would be quicker to be moving to like those Fujis that are really quiet. I think they may be silent completely. I think I would actually go for it. There are some cameras, if it's not the Fujis, some of the Sonys that are 100% silent, and some of them you can like turn on a shutter sound even. But I think I'd be quicker to go to that and drop the Nikon because I don't want to hold a blimp and I don't want to buy a blimp. I'd be quicker to shoot on like an XE1 from Fuji or the X Pro one and not deal with.
The files will be the files will hold up.
Absolutely, yeah. Because in terms of resolution, I think the Fujis are all at 16 megapixels. I'm shooting 12 with the D3. It's just a smaller chip, but no, the files will absolutely hold up. without a problem. So one other thing I wanted to talk about that I thought was interesting, so we've talked a few times on the podcast about the idea that if as a photographer what you're doing is fulfilling someone else's vision, you can be easily replaced. I've tried to make this point a ton of times that as a photographer, part of what you should be doing is finding a story you can tell, and you should tell that story, whatever your world is. And your own world can seem really boring, but maybe that's a story. You have these guys like Kurt Cobain, they grew up in towns that didn't seem interesting to them, and somehow they would write about the frustration of not being in a cool place like New York or LA, and they still created great art from it. And I think the mistake a lot of photographers do is they're essentially saying to the client, I can take great photographs, and here's how I'm going to do it. I want you to go stage a dinner with $50,000 tables and get a bunch of executives and get something happening on a stage during this dinner, either some kind of speech from someone famous or a very classy music performance, and light it properly and put it in a good hall. And once you do all of that, I am going to show you good photographs. It's silly. So it's cool to do it, but you need to be able to also create stuff on your own. You've got to be that guy that, like, there was some guy in a Leica blog recently, he shot on bodegas. He was in New York and he just went and shot bodegas in black and white. The stuff was fantastic. I texted the guy on Facebook. I'm like, hey, why don't you come do the podcast? He never got back to me. I forgot his name now, but I thought I just wanted to tell the dude on the podcast, like, man, that was great. But the point is this, that you want to be creating your own work, telling your own story, whatever is in your life. If 3 women in your life died of cancer, then maybe you're shooting cancer survivors, and if you're a young person and your friends want to be designers and rappers, you're shooting that underground rap scene. Just, you're photographing your own story in your life and not just something that someone else has set up, because once I set it up, I can replace you. So I thought this was interesting. So I got a request for a rental from someone who I've known for like 10 years, known this guy forever. And he's like a magazine publisher. And he, publishes a magazine, and I'm trying to tell the story without giving away who the person is, because I'm not trying to give away people's business, but I'm trying to make a point. So bear with me if I stumble a bit on it. But the person publishes a magazine. He wants to rent the studio. So he's asking about the days and the hours and the rates, and we hash all of that out. So he says, what equipment do you have in a studio? Give him a rate for equipment. But I say to him, look, if you want to know about equipment, you're really better off just having the photographer email me, and then I can discuss with him what equipment we have here, and we can see if we have what he needs, or if he's going to need to rent something. Because I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm having a conversation with the publisher about gear. What am I going to tell him? I have a Magnum reflector? Like, what does this mean to him? So I say, just have him email me. And I was looking for the text on my phone as Ray was talking, for anybody looking at this on video, and I couldn't find it. But the funny thing is, he texted me back. He said, no, I'm shooting it. It's something I just started doing recently. I'm the photographer. And it really made me laugh, because not because I'm thinking, oh, yeah, this dude thinks he can shoot. No, I'm laughing because it's exactly what I said. Because what was happening was, and again, I haven't spoken to him, but I guarantee this is what was happening. As the publisher, he was setting up certain things. You understand? If they were shooting a music artist, he was the guy getting the music artist there. And he was the guy kind of helping to come up with the concept. Like, let's shoot it in a restaurant, or let's shoot it in a club, or let's shoot it in a studio. And helping with the creative vision, like, well, let's make it a clean white thing with no shadows or whatever. He's coming up with that. And then he'd call some dude in to shoot it. And then he'd watch the guy shoot and just go like, well, hell, at this point, anybody can shoot this. Because he knows when he hires Bob, and he hires Frank, and he hires Ted, and he hires Jerry, it's the same photograph. Because at the point where we've decided who we're going to shoot, where we're going to shoot, how we're going to shoot it, anybody can push the button and take the picture. And this dude said to himself, I could just shoot this myself. What do I need this guy for? Because the vision is already completed. So he's like, I'm shooting it. And believe me, I know if I tell that story to other photographers, I could tell it in a way that, like, we're supposed to laugh at him. Like, would you believe, so-and-so thinks he can shoot it? I'm looking at it like, of course you can shoot it, because 80% of it is the pre-production. And you were the guy doing the pre-production. Again, and at the point where now we just have to push the button, anybody can push the button. And, I'm going to help him in the sense that when he rents the gear, I'm going to help him set up the lights and whatever, make sure his thing is on point. I mean, he's a rental, he's paying me whatever, and he's a friend of mine 10 years now. I'm going to make sure his stuff is on point from a technical sense. But again, he could hire anybody as a technical consultant. You hire assistant on Craigslist, technical consultant, $250, boom. That person can make sure you're technically on point and you can shoot it. So the takeaway from that to me again is, if you are a photographer and you are shooting what somebody else tells you to shoot, and they're telling you how to shoot it, and what you shoot is set up, which is very much a lot of what I do at BET. It's a television program that's happening, and I photograph that television program. How different would it be if you shot it? It's going to be different. It's going to be the same thing. And to be in the eyes of the regular public, it's going to be 99% exactly the same thing. Now, I could sit you down and go, no, it's different because you see, Ray does it this way and I do it. But, bottom line, it's the same thing. We shoot the same television show. So, and the analogy that I've made on the show before is it's like you're doing a cover song when you shoot somebody else's work. It's different when, whatever Metallica does the song versus when Sheryl Crow does it, if they did the same song. But you get my point. But essentially, it's the same song. But when those people write their own songs, they're totally different. Look at it. Shakira. She does Nothing Else Matters for Metallica. Hey, it sounds a lot the same when Shakira does it, when Metallica does it, frankly. But when Shakira is doing, Whenever, Wherever, and Metallica is doing Wherever I Roam, those are drastically different. And that's what you need to be doing as a photographer. To some degree, at some point in your career and in your shooting, you need to be doing stuff that you are creating, telling your own story, because then you cannot be replaced.
Right. No, I mean, I agree with you. I still have trouble doing it, but I definitely agree.
Right. Well, again, I think the problem that you get is not that you don't have a story to tell, because you are, in many ways, a very quiet person. You wouldn't know it from the podcast. Although you know it from this one, because I'm like talking to death on this one. But you're very quiet a lot of times. But I always think when people are super quiet, like there's all this stuff going on in their head that they can let out whenever they choose. And you're very good on the podcast at talking. When I stop talking, give you a chance to speak, you're very good.
Right.
But, artistically, you could let all of that out photographically.
Right.
Your barrier is just that there's something in your brain that makes you go, I'm not making money on this. Why am I bothering? Right. I understand a bit. This is what I think is going on in your head. You take a lot of time off from photography to do physical stuff. You're like, this is important because I'm building up my body. So you'll go to yoga. You go hiking. You go bicycle riding. You do jujitsu. You do yoga, if I didn't mention that in that little list. Like, you do stuff that is not money related. You do a lot of stuff like that has a result. You're like, this is important because my body doesn't work. I can't work and I don't feel right and I'm sleepy and lethargic and angry, whatever. But then when it comes to like artistically shooting, like you said, I'm going to go grab this Leica and I'm just going to go run around for the next 3 hours and photograph flowers or something. You're just going, this is stupid. I'm not making any money. Let me go find out where a movie set is and make a couple $100 today.
Right. Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. And when someone else says it, then it hits home a lot harder. So right. I definitely gotta reassess.
Right. Yeah. And I think, you're open-minded, so you'll find your place. And I mentioned on the podcast before, I'm going to start moving into some regular people shooting soon. I think we're going to see what happens with that, because my entire career has been, I'm not even sure what the word would be. I want to say corporate, but I don't mean corporate in terms of people in suits and ties. But my clients have always been like magazines, record labels, and I guess that's about it, right? Magazines and record labels. Those are my clients. Like, what I mean, like publicity firms, whatever. Sometimes it's a company like Coca-Cola because they're sponsoring an event. But my clients have never been like Uncle Bob. It's just never been that. But
yeah. And there's a lot of people who are doing that, and there's a lot of people who are making a lot of money at doing that. So
yeah, and not all of them are like taking like, oh my God, how did you shoot that? Photos, they're just shooting stuff. You're not looking at the pictures going, whoa, like, well, how did you do that? I need to know how you shoot this. You're just like, I want to know how you sold that is really what you're thinking when you see it, right?
Yeah, no, there was a segment like I covered GMA, Good Morning America, every day, and I usually go there to shoot the celebrities, but there was a segment about high school portrait settings where these photographers are making buku cash, and for me it's always about how much money can you make.
Right, that's where you start, yeah.
But what they're doing is they're bringing instead of the formulaic high school senior picture setting, right. where you just, they're doing full out glamour photo shoots.
Well, that's also happening with some of and there's always been what they call like an engagement session as part of a wedding package. And that's always been the same thing. Very cliched, very dry, very formulaic. It's the picture of this. He looks at her, she looks at him, and you compose it the same way with the blurry background and all of that. And then a few people stepped up and started doing just exactly what you said. Basically an editorial shoot. They get a stylist, they get clothes, they come up with a theme. Oh, she's a 50s pinup icon, and he's the leering photographer or whatever. And they create what would be a fashion shoot. And of course, with a fashion shoot, might be paying a photographer like $700. They're billing the engagement version of this at like $5,000 and making a killing on it, And you showed me one time too, a couple of years ago, where someone was doing like a romantic film as part of their engagement package. Remember that? Like it'd be like a little skit where like the girl is like driving her car and she parks it, and then she sees a cute guy, and then he like makes eye contact with her, and then like they go in a car, and then they have like this hot makeout session, and it's shot in a super classy way. And these people have this video, and it's like something that they're going to laugh about when they look at it, even though it's shot very serious. But yeah, I think that's an interesting movement in the regular people photography, is to bring that kind of like what I'm going to call corporate photography into regular people's lives. And I think maybe because some of the rates have dropped in corporate stuff, that these guys are like, well, we can do the same skill level we were doing for corporate, do it for regular people, and retain higher rates. So I think that's an interesting thing. And for myself, again, I think I'm going to move into a little bit of this regular people, but I'm still mentally hashing it out. Like every day I think about exactly what do I want to shoot and how do I want to shoot it. And then my problem is I keep going, I need that black and white Leica camera, because my solution is always to buy more gear, which I think is a really dumb solution to any problem.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I feel the same way. I was going to buy a tripod, but when you look at some of these people who are doing some amazing work, and they're not worried about equipment, they're worried about their vision and how to execute that vision. And then that execution doesn't necessarily mean the highest priced body or the biggest. I mean, they don't need to spend $4,000 on something. They can get by with doing some amazing things with $10. Right. And that's where I need to get off that hump. Basically.
Right, but there is a point. Again, I know for me, I would never advise people to buy gear as a solution to any problem, really, because like you're saying, you take the $10 thing, you can do it. But I do know for me, most of the time when I buy the new gear, it has a dramatic impact on my photography. As I said, I have different photos in my portfolio now because I bought a Leica. That does work for me. It doesn't work for everybody. I wouldn't suggest other people do it, but for me, it actually does work. The different gear makes me shoot different. When I get a Magnum reflector from Profoto, I'm taking different photos than I take when I'm using an Octabank. It's just, when I was doing a lot of ring flash stuff, I was creating different photos. It made me shoot different. When I used a ring flash, I had to lock in my distance to the person, because if you took a step closer, the ring flash puts out more light. If you step a foot back, you put out less light. It made me shoot different, and I created different photos than I was going to create if I used an umbrella. So the gear actually, and again, if I get the Leica black and white camera, the M monochrome as it's called, I have never shot black and white really my whole life. I've just never been a black and white photographer. If I get that camera, it's going to help me create an entirely different body of work than I've ever shot in my life, because I can't show you 3 black and white photos from a 20-year career of photography. So for me, it does. And that's not to suggest that other people should buy gear, because you could just shoot, essentially we're all shooting black and white anyway. The color is fake on the cameras anyway. They're not really capturing color. They're like interpolating color. So, you have more flexibility anyway when you take the color sensor and convert it to black and white. You've got more flexibility in the relationship between the gray tones. But for me, I'd rather have a black and white camera, because that's how my brain works, and I could create better work. But it's not a solution. It really isn't. And it'll be interesting to see where I end up with this regular people thing, because I'm still trying to hash it out in my brain. And it'll be interesting to see where it goes. We'll see. We'll talk about it on a podcast. That's the cool thing. All right. So I think we're good today. Any last comment? Anything you want to point out or anything?
No, I mean, just for people who are listening, and for myself especially, I'm telling other people, but I'm also markedly telling myself to work. This is what we're doing, camera work, and I'm always experimenting, because in my career, my career is always evolving, so I'm trying to figure out what's next. What's next? How am I going to continue making money? And it's about doing the work, inside yourself introspectively, or even outside, just doing the regular work.
And really quick note on that, and then we're going to end. But there's a group that I shoot for all the time. They're like an executive group that I shoot for, and it's like the last time I shot their event in DC, which was just a week ago, I brought my lights and did some executive portraits there. I didn't have to do that. I could easily say I've been shooting for this group for like 3 years. These guys love me to death. Every time they see me, they give me hugs. They announce me, oh, John Ricard's our photographer. Like, they're happy to have me at the event. I could coast on this event, believe me. I could coast and take it easy, but instead, I brought lights and I did some executive portraits. I did more than they expected. I do not allow myself to get comfortable with that client. And the same thing, I shot this rap battle the other day for a very long time client, and I did a particular type of portrait of all of the rappers who were battling that they did not ask for. And like, that portrait was worth way more than they were paying me for, frankly, because they wanted me to document the event. They didn't ask me to capture a really good portrait of each one of the rappers who was battling. But I did it because I'm trying to do more than I was contracted for. You understand? Because it's a passion, frankly. It's like I'm looking at opportunities. Once I've set the rate and we agree to the rate, once I'm there, I can't turn that part off. Now I'm just like, well, what can I do? Where's a great shot? What amazing work can I create here? So yeah, you want to do the work, and you never want to get comfortable and just start coasting. You never want to do that. Okay. So anyway, if you want to find me, Instagram is a cool place to find me. Okay. It's John Ricard on Instagram, JohnRicard. And remember, wherever you're checking out the podcast, there's other places to get it. So, if you want it on your phone, get it on iTunes. If you want to see what we look like every now and then, go to YouTube and catch the YouTube version of it. Okay. Ray, where do they find you?
You can find me on my site, www.raytamarra.com, RayTamarra.com. Or if you're in New York, you can find me on a bike. You can walking around, you'll see me. And hopefully you know what I look like. If you don't, you can ask, and I'll talk to you if I'm not grumpy.
And hopefully you'll see both of us at Marcelo Garcia again soon. I shot 5 days straight. I didn't get to train all week. It sucked. Mm-hmm. All right. But anyway,
thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye. That worked out good, right? Too bad we didn't have Josh here. I think we recovered just fine. Not in here, but I was trying to get to LA this week.
Are you going to go to class at all?
No, not today. I can't. I got something with Angelique today. She's in some talent show thing, and do the dad thing and take some pictures of that. I'll probably shoot some video of her on there. So I'm going to do that. I think I'm shooting a lot of days next week. I think Tuesday I can make classes. So if you go Tuesday, I might go talk. Let's see you there. All right. All right, that was good.